This audio fiction is recorded for an adult audience. It may contain scenes of explicit sex, violence, and disturbing supernatural entities. Listener discretion is recommended.
Come, lend me your ear, as I speak to you of the macabre, the cursed, the maligned, the malignant, the possessed, and the downright demonic. Bolt all doors, lock all windows. Are you alone? Are you sure? I suggest you check under the bed, carefully, twice. Declan stepped from the pool, pausing on the final step. Hairs on his thick calves danced in the glowing water. He reached to pull a towel from the back of a nearby chair, his wet fingers feeling the cool, heavy damp still in its threads from his morning lapse. He had intended to return to the house, Le Papillon, before the sunset leached to purple, but the crimson, orange, and cinnamon streaks had transfixed him with their symphony. Somehow a spontaneous skinny dip in the pool became 50 earnest lengths. He rubbed the damp towel over his naked body, thoughts still muddy. 3 leaf-strewn chaise sunbeds stood empty, parallel to the swimming pool, unsettlingly empty. Declan had grown used to them being occupied. Not that he ever saw anyone physically in them. Since his first swim in early December, after arriving from England, he'd felt invisible eyes there, observing him. For some reason he knew they were there, sitting upright and attentively cross-legged, like the elderly Korean ladies he would watch play blackjack, legs folded, in their train seats from Seoul to Busan. He was an interloper in a place to which tragic spirits had been tethered as slaves for more than 2 centuries. In shadows and dreams he glimpsed them, obliquely from the corners of his eyes. Only once did they parade around him in broad daylight, during a New Year party, there in Le Papillon. His landlady, Vanessa, owner of Le Papillon, and mother of his old London friend Chiggy, later declared them to be hallucinations. That day Declan had found himself rooted to the spot among a whirling procession of men and women. They besieged him with their abject despair, steeping him in it, imprinting it upon him. Their eyeless faces were of every kind, an evidence of Barbados's tragic past. They included long-extinct Carib natives, Cromwell's indentured Celtic labourers, slaves by any modern interpretation, and a multitude of African slaves from a Babel of nations captured and sold just after the Celts, into a burning jungle climate which cut through Irish and Scottish ranks in droves. "Doesn't it depress you, obsessing over all this awful history?" Vanessa had asked, her face wrinkled with scorn. "Haven't you got a juicy detective novel to read instead?" The descendants of Declan's paranormal visitors had inherited the island, but still the spirits remained trapped by past injustices. Declan knew and felt those older souls, and how they clung to the hillsides where they died. "Their bones are rotting here under my feet," he wrote in his notes one night, as they gathered invisibly around him. They spoke to him through poems too. Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this episode, then please subscribe. I must leave you now, but do not despair. If you listen to the next installment, the curse cannot harm you, but you must believe. Now pull the blanket over your head and be quiet. You are not alone. Shh.